Hey everyone, today I've got The Mandalorian Episode 8 Disney Plus review. The end is here where we may finally get some answers about this entire series. So as far as the story goes, Taika Waititi directs this final episode of Season 1 titled Redemption, and it picks up where the last episode left off. So it may kind of be a spoiler if you haven't gotten caught up with this series. I don't know why you haven't, so go watch it and then come back here. Basically, at the end of episode 7, it had this major cliffhanger, and I personally thought it was a nail-biter going up to that point and then leading up to this final episode where you have Baby Yoda getting kidnapped by these stormtroopers, and you know, it was kind of interesting how it first started off with this comic relief where these two stormtroopers are basically, you know, going back and forth and deciding whether or not, like, they want to do something about the Baby Yoda. They don't even know what it is, but they're clearly just on a job and taking orders from people who are already in the middle of doing something else while they're in the middle of nowhere. I kind of found that the way that they handled this situation is far from laughable, and I feel like this would be something that Taika Waititi would do, considering that, you know, he's made movies before where they are sort of, you know, comedies, or even most recently with Jojo Rabbit, a dark comedy. Now, of course, I don't want to see anything bad happen to Baby Yoda, and I'm sure everybody else who watched this series didn't want to see, from the first moment that they saw him, they didn't want to see anything happening to Baby Yoda. And of course, when they ended up killing Nick Nolte's character off, I was thinking, okay, well now this stuff is really getting serious, and clearly Baby Yoda is far more valuable than we've ever imagined, and of course for good reason, because Baby Yoda is powerful as all get out. So, when you have a transition to, obviously, the main character being the Mandalorian, and the rest of the group who are all boxed in by the big bad of the series and his whole entire army of stormtroopers, I mean, I felt like the pacing was better this time around, and I liked how they actually showed more of the Mandalorians' backstory. Now, we sort of got a few tidbits here and there throughout the series, but we actually got to see, you know, his family, and it kind of reminded me of what happened in the beginning of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So of course this whole series does obviously remind me a lot of that movie, and I was really hoping to get one of my wishes granted by the end of this series, sort of hoping to see something happen as far as his character goes, and maybe some character growth. So I'm not going to say whether or not it happened, but I was really happy to see, you know, the way it was going to end. This is the way. As far as the casting goes, of course, Pedro Pascal was amazing as the Mandalorian, and we learned a lot about where he came from and more about the Mandalorians and their way of life. So I really liked how we got to see more of, you know, what he can do as far as his, you know, upgrades go with his armor and his weapons, because without them, I don't know what else he would be doing besides protecting Baby Yoda. But of course he gets the help of Gina Carano, who I also loved since the first time that we got to see her, and see that maybe there could be a possible romantic connection between them. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I hope that they're not just going to shoehorn in a relationship like that, but I think she was a very good asset this time around, especially being another you know, kick-ass partner. And even Carl Weathers was pretty nice to see again, because, you know, he's definitely changed his ways since we, you know, first sort of saw him in the last couple episodes, and you know, he's a good guy to have around too. But then, speaking of the big bad, Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Moth Gideon, I kind of like that he pulls off this bad guy character. And I'm pretty sure I said this in the last episode, and I think he does a really good job, and I like to see how menacing he can be. So I'd be really curious to know how much more menacing we'll see him in the future. Well, as far as the things that I liked about this episode was that the action scenes reminded me of, you know, something out of Terminator, especially with that droid that was reprogrammed by Nick Nolte's character, and I definitely smiled a lot while watching this episode because there's just so many things that were exciting going on, and I might have freaked out once or twice because I was also once again worried about Baby Yoda half the time and thinking, okay, I know you're really young for your species, but you just look so unfazed by everything that's going on. You need to be protected at all costs. There were times when it does get dark, and it is very interesting to see how much the tone changes throughout the episode and how consistent it has stayed. And I'm curious to find out exactly what they will have planned for a future season going forward. Are they going to keep up with this dark tone, or are they going to make it more comical? And as we've seen from the Star Wars latest movies, being more comical and Disneyfied is not the way. This is the way. Overall, I would say that I was really impressed with this episode, and I'm glad it was even longer than I anticipated it to be. So I would highly recommend seeing this episode, this series in general. I can't wait to see where it goes forward from here. So I would give this 5 hearts on the heart rate scale. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of The Mandalorian episode 8. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates, come back every week for a Chill Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys later.